Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 30 of the Clutch Dump. And in this episode, I'm alive. Ben talks about sand, and we talk for longer than we probably should. Guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clutch Dump. And if you notice, I'm not wearing headphones because mine just vanished. Trust me,
Nick's a slacker.
That is the scientifically accurate reason. I am no longer completely sick, so we're back. We have probably the most motorsport news and just motorsport stuff in general that we've had to talk about easily since the end of the Formula One season. So we're going to be getting into all of that. But before we do, go ahead and check us out on social media at The Clutch Dump on Instagram. Make sure to follow us if you're listening on whatever podcast platform. And if you're on YouTube, thank you. Drop a subscription, whatever you feel like you want to do. If you like the content and you want to come back and see more of it, that is the easiest way to do it. Also, just a little thing. Thank you, because our last episode on YouTube has more views than all of our previous ones combined. So thank you.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's like at 18, and the other ones are between 3 and 5.
Woo! Whatever.
So thank
cool.
you all for that. Also, this is the last motorsport episode before I pack my bags and I go to frickin' Daytona, and I could not be more excited. I just made a TikTok. I was like, guys, there's a few more sleeps, and then I'm in Daytona. I will be in the hot tubs racing in Ultimatica.
When do you leave? What day do you leave?
Ass crack it on Wednesday morning.
Okay, so are we not doing a motorsport episode on Monday?
We can. I was thinking if we do one, it could just be a Daytona-looking episode. Like the cool announcement of the coolest livery, I think, in the field. Did you see this?
Which one is the... Which, what? No, what?
Huh? Well, I'll post on my Instagram story. Now I know who checks.
I check everyone's stories, but I don't...
I don't even remember which GT3 team it was, is taking the livery off of one of the Brumos 935s, but it's not the Brumos colors, and they did an exact replica on their current car. You might recognize it. It's the T-Bird livery, so it's white with the fluorescent orange and the really rich blue and the orange wheels on it. Oh, chef's kiss. So anyway,
there will be a picture up here.
Yeah,
somewhere, probably, unless I forget.
The drivers got in the original car, and so anyways, we could do an episode like that. But guys, that's actually so little of what we have to talk about today. There's maybe 2 bullet points about episode Daytona.
Oh man, do we have some things to talk about today?
And ironically enough, there are 2 racing series that I don't hardly pay any attention to.
I was going to say, Nick Patty, of the 11 notes pages that we have, you care about half of one of them? Because let's see.
All of IMSA WEC. I care about all of NASCAR, all of IndyCar, all of Formula One. That's 4.
Those are the shortest sections we have to talk about today.
Yes. However,
so today we have some Dakar news, because if you are unaware, the Dakar finished up. What was that? 5 days ago now. So the Dakar finished up, and we had the first race of the Formula E season. Before you click off, give us a chance. Calm down.
Please.
It's okay. Relax. Okay. We also have some 24 Hours of Dubai news, which is a series that I forgot was happening, so it was not on my calendar. And then I saw the results, and I was like, oh, look at that. That's cool. And then we have some IMSA news. We have some WRC news. I am not going to be talking about Rally Monte Carlo at the moment, despite the fact that it is happening as we speak. Live right now, Rally Monte Carlo.
Prior to this episode, we, built up some hype for it.
Right. So maybe next week, if Nick will give me 5 minutes of his time in that Daytona Monday episode, I will just pop in, talk super fast. Yeah. Maybe he'll make me speed it up in post or whatever.
And I'm like, what's up, guys? Welcome to my...
We're going to do 2 separate episodes. So we have some WRC news. We have some MotoGP news. It's not very exciting, but we do have some MotoGP news. NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One, as Nick said. Well, Nick, since you didn't watch the Dakar, I'm assuming, or the Formula E race, I'm assuming, would you like to start with something else, or would you like to just rip off the Band-Aid and listen to me talk for the next 45 minutes?
Well, let's start with something small.
Okay.
Small.
Small.
But actually, I'm going to just start with NASCAR because it's what I'm most excited about. And
Please.
Pit vipers are in my car. So that's a shame.
Sure.
So this is actually, I anticipated this first bullet point to be what you'd be most excited about of all the news, which is there's a lot of news. Travis Pastrana will attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500 in a third 2311 car. So 2311 obviously is the team that Bubba Wallace and formerly Kurt Busch drove for, and it is owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. Well, I was reaching really there for a minute. Holy crap. Travis Pastrana is not completely new to NASCAR. He made a NASCAR debut in 2011. He did a full season in 12 and 13. Unfortunately, to little success. And he did a few truck races here and there. But he's gonna be trying to qualify. So that's big news looking forward. Just 29 or 30 days from now.
Pretty close.
So that and Ben, well, I'm gonna do the next bullet point last. We have two Cup Series rookies for 2023, Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. I'm going to be a Noah Gragson fan. Just saying.
Woot. Same here.
Ty Gibbs is everybody's favorite bad boy of Xfinity, I guess. He's kind of a bully, but we'll give it to him. And then this was written yesterday, but the Hall of Fame induction ceremony is today for NASCAR, and I should have written out who's being inducted. I know Matt Kenseth is one of them. So that is happening this evening. Now, this last bullet point is the one I want Ben's thoughts on. And I'm actually going to read a Twitter thread that I did at Nicholas Patty 21. But Jimmy Johnson has been heavily rumored to be getting one of the Garage 56 seats for the Le Mans 24 next year. Now, Ben.
Yes.
To your knowledge,
yes.
Has Jimmy Johnson won anything outside of NASCAR?
No.
Since he retired from NASCAR, that's a better. He won other stuff while he was racing, but since he retired, yes, the answer is no. He hasn't.
No,
okay.
Right.
So, question.
Yes.
Have NASCAR Cup cars changed from when Jimmy Johnson last raced in NASCAR?
A little bit, yes. I'd say they're completely different now.
Another question. Just you know, I'm clueless. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Is the Garage 56 car different from a regular Cup Series car that's already different from the Cup Series car Jimmy had drove?
Why, yes, it is. In the fact that it has aero and lights and a hybrid system.
Another question. Is Jimmy Johnson known for his exquisite strengths on a road course?
No, I don't think he is.
Wow, that is spectacular. So here's the thing. I said it pretty well in my tweet, so I'm just going to read that. But I will extrapolate on it more. So I have a ton of respect for Jimmy Johnson and what he's accomplished in his long career. But for Le Mans, if Hendrick wants the largest chance of success, they need drivers that are on their top of their game now. That seems obvious. For instance, Mike Rockenfeller has driven like everything and anything and everything under the sun and at Le Mans and has won all of it. Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott, who I both don't like, have proved that they are at the top of the NASCAR Cup Series field overall and on road courses. And they're both Hendrick drivers. For a 24-hour race, you can't just do two drivers. It's typically a team of 3 or 4. So grab another Chevy driver from the Corvette program or a Chevy IndyCar driver.
Yep.
Why aren't we pulling out of IndyCar for this stuff to take part?
I think IndyCar drivers would be much more suited to this car than NASCAR drivers.
The driver lineup of this car will be the single largest deciding factor for the success of this program, aside from the reliability of the car. Awareness amongst multi-class racing, competence during night hours, etc. And the reason I'm upset that Jimmy Johnson's rumored for this is because for the rest of the world, when NASCAR's putting their foot forward, for the rest of the world, they're going to see an old, washed-up Cup Series driver, granted, of Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty's success, but old, washed-up driver.
Sure.
And they're going to be sitting there like, okay.
Who is this guy?
What happens if Jimmy Johnson crashes? There's one Garage 56 car. There's not a team or 2 or 3.
Yep.
What happens if trying his damnedest? Like I will never outlive or forget Sebring. Maybe 2020 or 2021. Jimmy Johnson was running in a DPI, the Ally 48 car.
Oh, okay. I do remember that. Yeah.
Just on his own, completely unassisted, just loops it.
Yep.
Later in the lap, loops it again. And I'm like, and it's just nighttime.
Uh-huh.
He's so much of a better driver than I am. Fine. Like, I know
Sure.
I'm just it.
For sure.
But guys, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and if I want this damn car to have a chance...
We're taking a NASCAR to Le Mans.
We want
to go big.
We've already shattered our kneecaps in limiting ourselves to the Cup Series car.
Yeah.
Give us the best possible chance otherwise. And if you want it to be all Americans, that's fine. But go... I don't even know if Alexander Rossi's in a Chevy and IndyCar. Pick him. Pick Graham Rahal. Pick, there's plenty of drivers to pick from that aren't NASCAR drivers. And I get that it's a NASCAR and it's Hendrick. Pick your two. Bring Jeff Gordon back.
Sure.
You'll remember I said weeks ago, I was like, hey, Jeff Gordon did that Porsche Carrera Cup weekend in Indianapolis. He works with Hendrick. Come on, baby. And then Jimmy Johnson's the one that gets rumored, and he's racing with Petty. He's not even a Hendrick driver anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, your thoughts?
I don't know. I hope he does well. Those are my only thoughts. That's it. Frankly, I really don't care too much about who's in the seat of that car. I just want to see the car do well, and I just want to see it do more than 5 laps. Would be nice.
Honestly.
Because went and got my passport renewed today. It's official. I'm going.
Shelby, we're taking a trip in August, which unfortunately is not Le Mans.
Oh, that is unfortunate. I would recommend it.
Yeah, let me just pull tickets out of my ass.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I hope he does well. I hope the Garage 56 car does well.
It better be Stars and Stripes, dude. I know I keep saying it, but if it's not just the American flag, or
it'll be something really cool.
I kind of hope it's that. Do you remember the races where Pit Viper sponsored a Cup car and it was like a paint bucket had just been dumped on? That would be a sick livery.
That would be awesome. That'd be cool. That'd be sick. All right, that about does it for NASCAR, Nick. What?
Yep, that's it.
That's it. Let's see. I'm gonna. Let's see. I'm gonna jump into WRC here real quick.
Let's do it.
We'll get this over with. Now, there will be some pictures appearing on your screen if you're on the YouTubes, which I would recommend that you do. Go hop over to YouTube at the Clutch Dump Podcast. Check it out. Biggest news, kind of old now because Rally Monte Carlo has started. But IMSport launched their livery, which normally livery launches are not that exciting in the world of racing because it's like, oh, look, it's last year's, but it's a different shade. It's a different shade of green. We're looking at you, Aston Martin.
Their TikTok admin has been on fire lately.
Literally made a whole thing about like, oh, look, it's green. Oh, look, it's a different green. I saw that and I was like, this is a joke, right? Like this is no, it's real. So IMSport launched new livery, which looks different. I like it. It's good. So last year's car, which was the first year of the hybrid era of WRC, the car was purple with some blue in it. This year's car is blue, which I really like. It's a bit more traditional for an IMSport livery. Big Red Bull logo on the side. Looks fantastic. Big news for this year is Ott Tanak is back at IMSport. If you're not a WRC fan, this will sound a bit chaotic to you. If you're more of a Formula One fan, you know that drivers go to a team and they sit there for a couple years and then they might go to another team. And really, if you're not Fernando Alonso, you only go to 1 or 2 teams and then your career is over. Fernando Alonso is an anomaly in the world of motorsports. We don't know how he functions. But Ott Tanak has moved back to IMSport for 2023. He was at Hyundai for 2 years. If you don't know, if you're not a rally fan, there's only 3 manufacturers. You have Toyota, you have Hyundai, and you have IMSport. IMSport is not Ford.
Right.
They build Fords. They run Ford Pumas, but it is not a Ford program. IMSport is backed by Ford. Like, there is some Ford money in there, but IMSport is technically a privateer team. So Ott Tanak moved back to IMSport. So Tanak won the 2019 World Rally Championship for Toyota, and the big shock in the World Rally scene. I remember this. Ott Tanak won the 2019 championship with Toyota and signed for Hyundai for the next year, which everyone was like, why are you doing that? That makes no sense. And then the Hyundai wasn't any good. So he moved to Hyundai for the 20 to 2022 seasons, and he's left again. And his problem with Hyundai And this appears to be the universe is against Ott Tanak. The reason why he's leaving Hyundai is he didn't gel well with the management at Hyundai. He didn't like the team. He felt a bit more as another staff member and less of a driver with the team working for him. So he's left Hyundai because of the bad management. So Hyundai announced that they're redoing their management. So Hyundai has a new... After he leaves. So Hyundai has a new team principal. Nick, I need help with his last name. But it's Cyril from Renault.
Oh,
the
Cyril.
F1. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever. That one. We'll put his name up here in a picture of him. He was the Renault F1 team principal from 2014 to 2020.
Yeah.
So super cool. He's now the team principal for Hyundai Motorsport. So Tanak drove for IMSA in 2012, 2015, and 2017. It's a bit chaotic.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that is the big news is Ott Tanak's move back to IMSA, which we think, we being the WRC community, that Ott Tanak is probably the fastest driver on the WRC grid. It is a rather small grid. But on So here's the thing about Loeb is not a full-time driver.
Oh, okay.
So in the WRC Championship this year, there are 10 cars, 8 of which are full-time. And then, so 4 cars for IMSA, 2 of them are not full-time. It's Sebastian Loeb and some other old dude who doesn't win anything. But for Rally Monte Carlo, which is happening right now, all 10 cars are there. The other thing about WRC that I wanted to bring up, because I read an article about it on dirtfish.com, was the Dakar to WRC is F1 to MotoGP, in the sense of Dakar has started to gain a lot of investors and viewership, and F1 has gained a ton of investors and viewership, and WRC and MotoGP haven't.
Right.
And it's one of those things, because as far as Dakar is considered, like Dakar, I feel W2RC, which is such a clever name, whoever came up with that, W2RC, World Rally Raid. Instead of writing WRRC, they put W2RC. Fantastic. Well done. Okay. ProDrive, which if you're unfamiliar with ProDrive, they prepped rally cars for like a million years. So ProDrive had a very successful Dakar this year with their ProDrive Hunter, which is the car that Sebastian Loeb was running in. That car has a twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6. It's basically the EcoBoost V6 out of the 4GT. Audi has dumped a ton of money into Dakar. Did not do well. But the reason they didn't do well wasn't because the car was unreliable. It's just because they crashed a lot. The Dakar this year was nuts. But Audi's been dumping a ton of money into it. Toyota keeps dumping a ton of money into it. And then Mini still has a ton of cars that run in the T1.2 class. And it's like, why do people keep dumping money into Dakar and not WRC? So,
right.
Like, I don't, that doesn't, and it's probably because no one buys hatchbacks anymore is probably the problem. People keep buying SUVs, but like your SUV doesn't look like an RSQ e-tron. Whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's not like there's a Cayenne out there that's just been lifted and flared
right.
out. Yeah.
So and I think personally that the WRC has a bit more prestige and heritage to it.
I would think so too.
Like,
because
you know,
Dakar is like the Baja in the sense that it's always been that one-off. And granted, it's impressive to win.
Right.
But a WRC championship, I think, means a lot more than a win at one of the bigger events.
Well, the Dakar, which we'll get into in a bit, is, to compare it to something else, is Dirt Le Mans, basically.
Right.
It's longer than Le Mans in length. But basically, like, there's a whole other season of races, but most people just watch this one. Is pretty much what it is. Like, I imagine Le Mans has like 8 times the viewership of the other WEC races because it's Le Mans. It's like, I'm sure Dakar has 8 times as many followers as the rest of the W2RC championship. Right. So it's just one of those things. And I don't know, maybe manufacturers care more about winning Dakar, but I don't know. WRC seems, WRC is developing cars. Like, they've switched to this new hybrid era. They all run on synthetic fuels already. So as far as racing technology to road car technology,
WRC.
I feel like WRC would transfer much more than Dakar. So I don't get that. But hopefully WRC can grow quite a bit over the next couple years. That is all I have from that. Nick, Patty, would you like to talk about IndyCar Formula One?
Yeah, let's do IndyCar. I'll say Formula One for a little bit later. But Takuma Sato, who is a very familiar name if you watched F1 back when they had roaring V10s, or if you're an IndyCar fan, he has signed with Chip Ganassi Racing, and he's going to be piloting the number 11 for the 2023 oval races during the IndyCar career. He started IndyCar racing in 2010. Then he went to RLL after his first team of KV Racing, and he went through some of the most story names in motorsports: AJ Foyt Enterprises, Andretti Autosport, and lastly Dale Coyne Racing. His last race win, which call it a big one.
Sure.
It was the 2020 Indy 500. That's probably where you recognize him from if you don't follow Indy closely. So Stingray Robb signs with Dale Coyne Racing and Rick Ware Racing to drive the 51 for 2023. He has the 2020 Indy Pro 2000 Championship. He raced in the 2-liter Miata Open Wheel Series, the Miata-powered cars, finished second in the 2022 Indy Lights. And we also have, for a record since 2011, 27 full-time cars competing in the 2023 NTT IndyCar season. So Ben has made the commitment. He's going to watch more IndyCar this year, which is exciting because
I am. When does Indy? I'm looking at my giant calendar. When does IndyCar start? IndyCar is light blue. Let's see here. IndyCar. It looks like we have March 5th.
Nice. And tomorrow, which sidebar.
Timeline wise,
let me just go into the IMSA WEC news because this is a perfect segue.
Please.
So tomorrow starts the Roar Before the 24, which if you don't know what that is, that's basically the it's been called a lot of different things for a long time, but the Continental Tire Challenge, the Michelin Pilot Sport Challenge, now it's the VP Racing Sports Car Challenge, the GT4 spec cars and the TCR spec cars. They have their Daytona weekend this weekend, obviously before the premier classes that race next weekend. So the Roar Before the 24 has 2 races, one Saturday, one Sunday. That starts tomorrow, I think at like 1 p.m. Eastern time or something like that, or 1:30. So make sure to follow us on Instagram and me on Twitter for kind of curating all the stuff that's going on this weekend, because there's been a lot in terms
updates
of
and such.
Livery reveals. Porsche was already testing today, or they were doing some on-track stuff in the 963, which it blows. I can't be there all 10 days, but that's whatever. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So there's more news though, and I'm going to let Ben take the first point in just a sec. So before we get to that,
yes,
let me delete the Roar point. I didn't even realize I made a point for that. So Colton Herta has been confirmed doing double duty as he is driving both the Rahal Lanigan Letterman Racing BMW LMDH car and the BMW Motorsport Factory LMDH entry during the 24 Hours of Daytona. So Colton Herta is going to have a gargantuan task ahead of him to drive. Okay. The BMW factory car, pressure. Then the most successful BMW privateer team, also their LMDH entry against the BMW factory car, both in GTP. So if Colton Herta does well, benefits both teams. If he does poorly, hurts both teams. So that's interesting. I don't know when the last time. I know people have done double duty where they'll be driving in different classes. I don't remember when the last time was that in the same class and in the same car, but for different teams, they pulled double duty. Valentino Rossi, who is one of few men that can have a picture above the crucifix in the Roman Catholic Church, he's
about it.
Said to do a test of the BMW LMDH car later this year, maybe because, hey, Colton Herta can't do this the entire freaking season, so we need Valentino Rossi. But he's going to be doing a test. That does not mean he's going to be driving with them. That does not mean he is signed with them. However,
just a test.
Go good, Valentino drive more than likely. Go bad. Well, we're back where we started. He's retired anyway, so
whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing to lose there. And then last but not least, before I hand the point off to Ben, Kevin Magnussen confirmed either yesterday or 2 days ago that he is no longer competing in the Rolex 24. He was supposed to be racing with MVK Motorsports in the GT3R, but he is not going to be because his doctors recommended, due to his hand surgery that he had recently, that he does not compete. Ben, last point.
Yes, last point. This is a weird one. This is the one that surprised me the most, aside from the Rossi news, is that Singer, which if you've listened to this podcast before, you've probably heard us mention Singer, the bespoke 911 builders shop, whatever, has announced they are going to be one of the sponsors of the Hertz Jota. Am I going to say this wrong?
I think it's Jota.
The Hertz Jota.
You say Jota Sport.
Okay, the Hertz Jota Team 963 LMDH car. So I was surprised by this because it's about the most un-Singer thing that there is race cars. Wow, my camera just took a poo. I don't know what's happening there. All right, camera, come back.
I have
maybe. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yay, fixed. So sorry about that. Yeah, Singer builds very pretty cars, very nice interiored cars, all these things, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna slap our name on a race car. So Singer isn't building the car. It's like there's just gonna be a Singer sticker on the side of the car.
Well, I had breaking news as of 13 minutes ago posted by Goodwood, and this is also sort of WEC related in the sense that it's Van Wall.
Okay.
Van Wall has a production car now, baby.
Woot.
So.
Oh, is it the hatchback looking thing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I saw this yesterday, I think.
Well, then it's not 13 minutes ago, but I tried.
There'll be a picture of it here. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, and I think that's how Van Wall got away with building an LMDH car, is that they're now a production company.
Good.
It looks awesome. It looks like the Hyundai Ioniq 6. I'll put up next, side-by-side pictures or whatever. Well, speaking of Valentino Rossi, that will segue us into the 24 hours of Dubai. Now, this is
look at this. This is so good.
This is a 24-hour series that I have never followed, because there's like a million 24-hour series.
Yeah.
Because there's like European Le Mans series, American Le Mans, Asian Le Mans. Like, there's a billion endurance racing series. I don't follow all of them.
Le Mans is dead. Show some respect.
Sorry. So the 24 hours of Dubai. So things I did not know about this. There's 9 classes that race in the 24 hours of Dubai.
And
there's
GT3 cars.
GT3, GT3 Pro-Am, GT3 Am, GTX, 992 Cup.
Oh, that's right.
992 Am Cup, GT4, TCR, and TCX.
So, Ben, when are we going racing then?
I don't know, dude, but there's like a million cars on the grid. There's a video that I've seen of them coming down the front straight on the opening lap, and there's just a million cars. What we're going to talk about is the fact that Valentino Rossi raced in an M4 GT3 car.
Yeah.
And came third. The heck?
Well, he's racing R8s, Audi R8s.
So he was racing R8s. This was his first actual race in the BMW.
I'm so proud of our dad. Look at him.
He did so good. So if you didn't know, Valentino Rossi over the years has actually done several different forms of motorsport.
Yeah.
He did rally for a bit. He's done endurance racing for the past couple of years. He was in an Audi R8 GT3 car or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he switched over to BMWs, and now he is in an M4 GT3. And with Team WRT, he came third. Now, the thing that I found interesting is that these GT3 class cars is a 5-driver lineup, which is a lot.
That is way too many.
Because I think Le Mans is only 3 or 4. Like, Le Mans doesn't even run 5 drivers.
I've ever seen was 4 that
right.
I can't remember. But I still remember old stories and stuff. I say old stories. As late as the 70s, where it was 2 guys, and they would just do 10 hours straight, and he'd be like, I'm done. Like, you finished it.
Right. I'm going home.
Yeah. There's 14 hours left. Knock yourself out.
Yeah. So
five drivers is like
5 drivers is ridiculous. Right. Yeah, that's just nuts to me.
Your stint is no more than 5 hours. That's like one double stint. At that point,
right. Right.
You have the car you're done, you can leave, go home.
And maybe the whole thing is that they just want as many drivers as possible, but you can't put more cars on the grid just because there's already a million cars.
Classes, 9 classes, 5 drivers, and you have like 20 cars a class. Right.
There's actually like 300 drivers at this event.
When somebody says they competed in the 24 hours of Dubai, you're like, yeah, who didn't? Like,
didn't we all? So that was super impressive to see. And I don't know. I guess BMW likes him. I guess he's famous or something. So he's going to get an LMDH test. Sadly, it's at the end of this year, and he won't be racing at Le Mans.
Sadly, it's not
whatever.
Ferrari.
Yeah, I thought about that, and I was like, come on.
Didn't he he had, he didn't drive, but he had a team racing Ferrari 488 in SRO or Blancpain or whatever it is now, the European series.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, just everybody, just let me go on this for a second.
A blue and yellow 499.
Oh no, the 499 in red, like it is, like it wasn't Ducati, but with the
Ferrari shouldn't be red, but okay.
And then imagine Rossi lowering himself into the cockpit of that car with his highlighter helmet.
Mm-hmm. It'd be good. It'd be a good thing.
Ferrari, come on!
I know. I'd be so upset. Like, I'd just be so happy if we had Rossi in a Ferrari. So, I don't know. Hopefully he does well. Hopefully he can continue on with his GT racing and his endurance racing. I'm not going to go through the results of that race because there's 9 classes, and we'd be here till tomorrow. But well done, Valentino Rossi. I just wanted to mention that. Motorcycle racer who's also good at car racing, apparently. Or he could be really bad because there was 4 other people in the car. That was the thing, is it was like, oh, Rossi podiumed.
Not finish last.
Right. It was like, oh, Rossi podiumed. It's like, yeah, but so did 4 other people in his team. Maybe he had the worst stint. And
Let's hop into the 2 bullet points on F1, and then let's finish with the other stuff.
Okay.
So F1,
Nick Patty.
There's and this was actually announced today. So Alfa Romeo is unveiling their car February 7th.
What?
So that's coming very soon. So that's happening. James Vowles is going to Williams after having his career basically be Mercedes. And if you're like, who's that? That's Valtteri. It's James.
He's the James part of that, not the Valtteri part. He's the James.
In the Valtteri, it's James equation, he is James being referred to.
Yes. In case anyone didn't know, he's the James.
In case you're stupid, he's not Valtteri. There's 2 names in that equation. He's not Valtteri. He's the James.
Which I think is one of the smartest moves I've seen. No. Okay, so here's the thing. So
I brought up this point on F1. Holy crap.
So, for starters, why do you think it's not? Because clearly you have a different opinion.
No disrespect. Why would anyone go to Williams?
The move isn't because of Williams. The move is because of Mercedes. So, current theory. Throwing this out there. Current theory. There's a certain man. His name is Toto Wolff.
Oh,
he's been there for a while as the team principal of Mercedes. And the current theory that I've seen floating around the interwebs is that James, not Valtteri, James, went to Williams to get experience being a team principal. And then when Toto steps down, James is just going to slot in there. That is the current theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
So the other person that we thought was going to be the new team principal at Williams was one Susie Wolff. Because what? She was the team principal.
Makes sense.
Well, she was the team principal for the for the Mercedes Formula E team. So she's also a race car driver. So that makes sense.
Apparently everybody is. 24 Hours of Dubai.
Everyone's a race car driver. Nick, just heads up. I thought I'd let you know that there were some people that you'd hate in my math class today, because in my math class, I sat in the back row because that's what I do. And I saw 4 AMG Petronas hats in the crowd. So I'm gonna show up next week, just head to toe Red Bull gear, just top to bottom, and just walk in with Pit Vipers and then just sit front row. Right at the front.
You need to let me know so I can stand waiting for them outside the door in all my Alpine gear with my Pit Vipers.
I'm going to show up and I'm going to have my Red Bull flag as a cape. Just sit at the front.
I have a Mercedes shirt we got mistakenly shipped. Why don't you wipe your ass with it and take it out of the bathroom?
Do you actually have... Why do you have a Mercedes shirt?
Well, Shelby ordered me last year for my birthday an Alonso polo, like the really expensive polo.
Sure.
And they sent her a Lewis Hamilton Mercedes Tommy Hilfiger shirt. And she said, this is the wrong shirt. I didn't order this. And they basically said, tough, you know what, and didn't correct it. So it's still in the bag. I tried to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. I have a brand new in the bag 2021 Mercedes shirt.
What size is it?
Large, I think.
Sick, I'll take it. So
just for that, I'm going to burn it. So the other F1 points we have.
Yes.
And by other points, I mean point.
Yes.
Jamie Chadwick is going to remain with the Williams team through next season. Wow. Who cares? No, I'm not a sexist. If she was good enough to be in F1, she would be already. Those are my thoughts.
I don't know why my camera has taken a poo.
To summon the
It's not working. So upset. I'm very upset. You buy it.
No tech setup.
There we go.
V-Ray computer. No mic. No webcam. Ben's over here with all that. It's not working.
I bought me a nice webcam, and for what reason? All right, so I'll talk about MotoGP real quick, and then I can talk about Dakar for way too long. So MotoGP. We don't have MotoGP race until March 26th, but we do have liveries. And with liveries comes new bikes, because unlike Formula One, the bikes do change quite a bit every year. So the first team to unveil their bike is the factory Monster Energy Yamaha team. So there will be some.
Is it blue and black?
It's blue and black and has a big ass Monster Energy logo on the side. Gasp! I know. But there are actually some big differences. Nick, I shared another document with you yesterday or something.
I am more than aware.
So I'll put some pictures up if you want to be nerdy about MotoGP. Now is your time. So the liveries look very similar. Similar. It's a bit more blue than black last year. That's the most irrelevant part. The important bits is the arrow on the front. So if you're looking at the front of the bike, we have a second wing, canard, whatever you want to call it.
I just want people that when these images pop up on the screen, I've been looking at these for like 2 days now. I can't tell what the hell's the difference. So
if you look at the pictures, if you have eyeballs, you look at the pictures.
So the hole's a little bit more holy.
Yes. So, well, Nick, you have to remember it's scaled down to like 1/6 of a car. So minor adjustments or major adjustments. It's whatever. You don't understand.
It's only for simpletons like me with 2 wheels.
So hey, I'm a Yamaha person again. I have to support him. So, air intake at the front looks a bit bigger. The front wings are different, and of course we have that second wing down at the bottom. The other thing is we have a front arrow. I'm going to call it like an arrow disc around the front brake. Interesting. Someone in a wind tunnel said that was important.
Put it on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Other big changes is the back of the seat is different. Cool. I'm sure it made Fabio more comfortable. And the rear fender is different, which that's the part that I actually find most interesting about this, is that last year it was a full fender, and this year it's got a bunch of holes in it. That seems like it doesn't work for airflow. I don't know. Someone smarter than me said it works. As far as the back of the bike goes, the new bike is wider. It looks about the same, but it is wider. And we have a new clutch, which is not surprising given that that's kind of, normal stuff that changes every year, as well as on the side of the fairings, the heat extractor hole is about twice as big.
It's not even close to twice as big. It's just marginally larger.
It's like 8 times as big. It's basically the whole bike.
The bike is a whole. It's negative matter. It's
yes. But exhaust looks the same. Swing arm is basically identical. I'm really sad because, well, Nick, here's the thing. It's not going to win. It just won't.
No, it's not.
And I'm ashamed to say that as a Yamaha owner. I'm no longer a Ducati person. I have a Yamaha again, and they're not going to win.
Well, I'm a Aero guy, and I can admit that the NASCAR ain't going to win them all. Although, I swear to God, if it does.
Well, sir, then Australian Supercar is for you this year. We'll get in.
Oh, I know. I saw that.
The Gen 3 car that I sent you yesterday?
Yeah. We need a section.
Super good. That'll come up whenever Australian Supercar starts in March 12th.
And U.S.
March 12th, we will watch Australian Supercar because Holden's no longer a thing, RIP. Anyway, the problem is that Yamaha still uses an inline 4. Whereas,
folks, only problem. If Yamaha would just do that.
They're the only company that uses an inline 4. Everyone else went to V4s, and they're down like 25 horsepower over everyone else, which on something that only weighs like 300 pounds is a lot. So basically, it's going to be slower, and it doesn't corner as fast, which makes it not as fast. So,
those of you that may be new to the world of motorsports, if it doesn't go as fast straight and doesn't go as fast in turn, it doesn't
win. It doesn't go as fast, so that sucks. Nick Patty, pick a motorsport that you don't care about that you'd like me to talk about.
Between what?
Dakar and Formula E.
Well, Porsche's in Formula E, so let's do that.
Okay, Formula E it is. All right. People, I'm going to say something.
People, get ready. What?
It's going to be controversial.
Oh, but Formula E was fun to watch.
I really liked the Formula E race.
And it looked pretty good. Where'd you watch it?
It was really good. Well, here's the thing. You can't.
Block market. The Russians are at my house.
No, I just waited till the race. So here's the thing. Here's the, for starters, biggest problem with Formula E. We're going to ignore the fact that they don't have engines.
Do you see anything wrong here? No. We got no windows, do we? No, do we?
We're going to ignore that. Okay? Biggest problem with Formula E is the only way to watch it if you're an American is if you have direct TV.
Really?
Which is so stupid. Because here's the thing. I would like to watch Formula E. If they had a Formula E TV, like F1 TV or WRC Live, or any other racing format, or MotoGP Live, if they had any other format where it was like $10 a month, I'd probably pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. So what they do is they live stream practice on YouTube.
Okay.
They live stream it for free, and then they don't live stream qualifying or the races on YouTube. Which I'm like, if you're already on YouTube, why don't you just cut a deal with YouTube TV and do it that way? Like, so, dear Formula E, for all of the Formula E executives watching, stream the races somewhere we can watch them. We want to give you money. So, I wasn't going to end it with that, but yeah. So, Formula E is interesting this year because I'm just going to ignore my camera. I'm just going to let it go.
All for it here at the club.
Formula E is interesting this year because they totally redesigned the cars. So, this is the 9th season.
Isn't it the Gen 3?
Gen 3 cars. Okay. So this is the year of the Gen 3. We have Gen 3 Formula E cars and Gen 3 Australian supercars. But for now, Gen 3 Formula E cars. So they're interesting now. So they redesigned the whole car. So they now have a 300 and...
Never looked.
Yeah, they look fantastic. So they have a 350 kilowatt rear motor and a 250 kilowatt front motor. Interesting thing about that is the front motor does not drive the wheels. It doesn't power the vehicle. All it does is under braking, it's regen for the batteries.
Gotcha.
Basically how that works is they flip the polarity and a motor turns into an alternator and it charges the batteries.
Gotcha.
So the cool thing about this here is that 40% of the power used during the race is generated during the race, which is super impressive.
I mean, it's impressive, but who cares? But like, it's impressive. Don't get me.
Well, here's the thing: the problem that Formula E originally had was that like the Gen 1 Formula E cars could only do half a race. So halfway through, they would pit stop and switch cars and then go back out.
I didn't know that.
That's how Gen 1 Formula E worked.
Absurd.
Yeah. So they've evolved. So they now have regen. The other cool thing, Nick Patty, they don't have rear brakes.
Oh, hell yeah. So a lot of, like, stepping out into the corners?
Not really. So there's no rear brakes. What they do is they use the regen as the rear brakes. So it drops weight and generates more energy. There's no rear brakes. The interesting thing is there's no pit stops. So
how long
there's no pit. This one was 37 laps.
Around how long of a circuit? I know it was a mix.
Mile and 3/4, 2 miles, something like that.
All right.
It was a 45-minute, 50-minute race. It was race time. But the interesting thing is there's no pit stops, so they run one set of tires for the whole race. Which is, so it used to be, for the first 8 seasons, a Michelin tire. It is now a hand-cooked tire. Or if you're the commentator, a Hankook tire. Hankook. Some British guy. It's Hankook. I'm sorry. So they're now on a hand-cooked tire, which is a all-weather tire. So if you're in the middle of a Formula E race and it starts raining, you don't pit. You just keep going.
Awesome.
So last year, there was a race in Paris. So for something you should know, it's all street circuits.
Yeah.
There are no racetracks. It's all street circuits. Last year, the race in Paris, it was sunny and dry at the start, and it started hailing. They kept racing. They didn't stop. They just kept going. So there's no pit stops. They use one set of Hankook tires. Interesting thing, this year, they're fast. They can do over 200 miles an hour. They're really fast. They can do 204 miles an hour, I think. Now, they won't hit that because it's all street circuits. But, they're hitting, 180. So the races are about 45 minutes, no pit stops. So the strategy part, because you don't have pit stops, you can't undercut or overcut. What you have is regenerative braking. So you decide where to lift to regen braking and get power. Because here's the thing, if you run out of power, before the last turn, tough luck. You don't finish the race, you DNF. So there's that. And then there's also what's called attack mode, which attack mode is what Formula E gets a lot of flack for. But here's the thing, it's actually really interesting. So there will be a picture on your screen of a turn with a racing line on it. Now, the green dotted line, that is a traditional racing line. Outside, inside, outside, right? If you're familiar with racing, if you've watched racing, this is how a racing driver would go through a corner. Now, attack mode is activated if you take the black line. It's normally one corner per race. Like per track, there's one corner that they pick to activate attack mode. Now, if you're like, oh, it's like Mario Kart. Yeah, so is DRS. So attack mode is basically you take the wrong line through a corner. You take the outside line, it's the slower line. So number one, you're easier to be overtaken because of that. But if you take that outside line through that corner, you get what's called attack mode, which is a 50 kilowatt boost, which is basically like an extra 100 horsepower. It's a lot. So it's a 50 kilowatt boost, and you get it for 4 minutes. And you decide, and when you go through that zone, it pops. The race directors have a thing pop up on your steering wheel, and it says, "Do you want two 2-minute, bursts of attack mode, a 1 and 3 minute, or a 3 and 1 minute?" Right? And I think you can use attack mode 4 times in a race. So that's where the strategy comes in, is through attack mode.
It's like the KERS system.
Yeah, basically. So there's attack mode, which is super cool. It makes the racing interesting. And then certain races, there will be what's called attack charge, which is you'll be able to use attack mode more, like multiple times. So there will actually be pit stops. So you will pull in, and they'll basically charge the car super fast. Like it'll be like 10 or 15 seconds, which will charge up that cell so that you can use attack mode more often. So there is actually strategy. Other thing, street circuit, 22 cars.
Yeah, I mean,
super interesting to watch. So the most difficult part that I found to keep up with was qualifying. So qualifying does not work in the same way that MotoGP or Formula One qualifying works. I don't know how NASCAR, IndyCar qualifying works because I'm not a fan at the moment, but I will run through Formula E qualifying. So how it works is it's divided into two groups. So there's 22 cars, so it's two groups of 11. Now, later in the season, it'll be divided by even and odd numbers in championships. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc. will be in one group, and then the even numbers will be in another group.
Gotcha.
Right? And those two groups run like normal qualifying. It's by lap time. Wherever you finish is your order. Now, the top 4 from those two groups will go what's into called duels. Now, how the duels work is if you qualified first and fourth, you two have a separate qualifying session from everyone else. If you qualified second and third, you have a separate qualifying session. And it's basically just a lap time stint, who has the faster lap time in that stint. And there's some rules about how much power you're allowed to use and whatever. So for normal qualifying, you're locked at 300 kilowatts. For duels, you're locked at 350 kilowatts. So your lap times are a bit different, etc. Also, you can totally crash. I watched it during qualifying. It was, people just crashed out.
Yeah.
And then from those duels, it becomes a bracket system. And eventually, it's whoever qualified first from Group A and first from Group B. Those two, after all the duels, race against each other and determine qualifying position. And it breaks down by lap time after that. So qualifying is a bit confusing, but it adds something interesting, whatever. Now, the reason why I think Formula E should take off, it all happens on one day.
And Porsche. Thank you.
And Porsche.
Talk.
But Formula E is one day. Practice qualifying race Saturday. That is Formula E. So, you know, if you want to go to a race, you don't have to take out a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you just want to watch it, it's like, well, okay, I need to do, you know, these 3 things this weekend. Okay, I'll do those Sunday. I have just Saturday. That's it. Your racing is Saturday. That simple. So I think that's super cool. They made it super easy to watch. And then the other thing that's interesting about Formula E that I should have mentioned during qualifying, if you get pole position, you get 3 championship points.
That's cool. So there's more incentive to go for pole.
There's more incentive to go for pole than to not. Now, as far as the teams go, so there's 11 teams. So there's Avalanche Andretti.
Porsche.
You may have heard of Andretti. There's Neo McLaren. There's Neo 333 Racing. I don't know if it's pronounced 333 or 333 or 333, whatever. Neo 333 Racing. If you've never heard of Neo,
Tag Heuer Porsche.
If you've never heard of Neo, they built an electric supercar a couple years ago, and it's bananas. Tag Heuer Porsche. Nick Petty, that one's for you. Envision Racing, Nissan, Jaguar TCS Racing, DS Automobiles Penske. DS is basically a fancy version of Citroen. Let's see, Maserati, MSG Racing, and ABT Cooper Racing. And Mahindra Racing. So there's some big names in this sport.
Yeah.
Like, there's some actual names and some actual money behind it. Nissan's in there, Jaguar's in there, Maserati's in there, McLaren, Porsche.
Well, some of the top drivers in the world, too. I mean,
right.
So for those of y'all that don't know, we got Lucas di Grassi, Andre Lauderer, Dan Ticktum, Sebastian Buemi, Antonio Da Costa, Jean-Eric Verne, Stoffel Vandoorne, Rene Rast, Eduardo Mortara. We got Frines, we got Sam Bird. If you don't know who those are, here's just a few. Robin Frines is one of the world's premier GT3 drivers. Same with Eduardo Mortara. And Rene Rast is a multi-time DTM champion. Stoffel Vandoorne is a former F1 driver. I think he's still a reserve driver. Antonio Felix da Costa is a huge GT3 driver, and I believe he's done a lot of prototype stuff in IMSA. Dan Ticktum, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but I believe was a IndyCar driver and British Touring Car driver.
Correct.
Grassi did GT3. Andre Lauderer is a multi-time Le Mans winner with Audi, and he raced with Porsche kind of on off late 2010s, but now he's a full-time factory Porsche driver for Formula E. So, granted, not all of them are the most impressive drivers in the world.
But like, there's some big names in here.
Drivers.
Yeah. And so a name that I want to bring up is Jay Hughes, who races for Neo McLaren. So he won a Formula 3 championship and I think came second in Formula 2, and then went and raced Indy Lights for a couple of years. And this was his first Formula E race for McLaren. And afterwards, there was an interview with him, and he was just drenched in sweat. And he was like, that is the hardest race I've ever done.
I bet.
Because they make like 700 horsepower.
Well, right.
And they're on street tires, but they also have downforce. And there's also 22 cars, and they don't have power steering.
So it doesn't have the grip that any racetrack does. Yeah.
Right. So it's a street circuit, so you're down on grip. You've got street tires, so you're down on grip. But you have downforce, so it can corner fast, but not really because you're down on grip. And it makes a ton of power.
You don't have enough traction to control it. And you're on a street circuit, which means you're already on the limits of white knuckling and being extremely driving up.
Right.
So.
And they don't have power steering, which is like just. The racing is so interesting. I'm not saying you have to be a diehard fan, but you should. But you don't have to, but you should. But, like, just after the races, just go to YouTube and watch the highlight reel. It's super interesting racing. Now, as far as qualifying goes, after you had your weird Group A's, Group B's, your duels, your semifinals, and your finals, you came out with Luke deGrassi qualifying P1 for Mahindra, Jake Dennis P2 for Avalanche Andretti, Jake Hughes P3 for Neo McLaren, Andrea Lotterer for Avalanche Andretti P4, Dan Ticktum P5 for Neo 333 Racing, Pascal Wehrlein, P6 for Tag Heuer Porsche, Sebastian Buemi for Envision Racing P7, Sancha.
Hold on. All right, listen.
Sorry.
Sasha Fenstraz, Antonio Felix da Costa, Mitch Evans, Jean-Eric Verne, Nick Cassidy, Sergio Seta Camara, Stoffel Van Dorn, Rene Rast, Eduardo Matara, Maximilian Gunther, Nico Mueller, Robin Freins, Norman Nacho, Sam Burton, Oliver Rowland.
Yes, those people.
That's
that was qualifying. And then the race was Nick Patty, because he can talk faster than I can, apparently.
In descending order, obviously. Jake Dennis, Pascal Wehrlein, Lucas deGrassi, Andre Lotterer, Jake Hughes, Sebastian Buemi, Antonio Felix da Costa, Mitch Evans, Nick Cassidy, Stoffel Van Dorn, Maximilian Gunther, Jean-Eric Verne, Oliver Rowland, Nico Mueller, Sasha Fenestraz, Sergio Set Camara, Dan Ticktum, and then these are the DNFs, which is a shame because my family stands Rene Rast, Eduardo Matara, Sam Bird, Norman Nato, and Robin Freins.
So that was your first Formula E race, the Mexico E-Prix, as it were. Yeah, super interesting. You should watch them. I think our next Formula E race is next weekend, same weekend as the Rolex 24. So I'll probably just watch the highlight reels because I'll be watching Daytona 24. But that is a doubleheader weekend. In the Middle East, we have an E-Prix on Saturday and an E-Prix on Sunday. So that should be interesting. Yeah. Okay, Nick Patty. We have one left.
Yes, we do.
We do. And we're already at nearly an hour, so I'll try not to take a ton of time. But we should talk about it because it is the hardest race in the world.
What?
You look like you had a varying opinion on your face.
I do, but that's fine.
Oh, no. Please. This is a safe place, Nicholas.
Not the one you think I'm going to say.
Go ahead, please.
I think 500 is more difficult for how high speed and how long and how chaotic it is.
How many people are flown to hospitals during the Indy 500? This is the craziest race.
Yeah, but what's the likelihood of mortality when there is a crash? The Indy 500 has severely worse consequences when it comes to accidents.
You know, I'll give you that. That's fair.
There may be
That's fair.
But you're in the goddamn dunes. But when you're on the track and you wreck, nobody comes out from that without...
There's a wall.
Yeah.
So, if you're not familiar with the Dakar, like I talked about earlier, it is the dirt Le Mans, basically. So the Dakar runs in a series called the W2RC, the World Rally Raid Championship. It's basically long travel rally cars. It's like Baja, but crazier. So the Dakar this year was raced over 5,312 miles, which is 5 miles longer than last year's Le Mans, which doesn't seem crazy until you realize that that's over dirt, not the same racetrack. So of those 5,312 miles, 2,925 of them are timed stages. So that's the actual part that counts for the event. Spanning 15 days, it is the most challenging race in the off-road world. Now, the crazy part about this is drivers, right? If you're in a car or whatever, the race changes every year. It's in a different location. Like, it's in a different country every year. So unlike Le Mans, which hasn't changed for like 20 years, it's the same track, or Daytona, or even rallies, like Rally Monte Carlo this year, they run the same stages, but like they run a couple of them backwards and they excluded a couple of them. Dakar is a different race every year. They don't give you directions, and they give you directions in the form of tulip notes, which I'll have a picture up here kind of explaining tulip notes. They don't give you tulip notes until 5 minutes before you leave. Like, you literally know nothing about this race until you start the race. Right. So it's one of those things of like, oh, okay, so we need to set the car up for a bit more, sand or whatever. Like, oh, well, there's this tricky corner. It's like, you don't know what's ahead of you until you start. So how it works is you leave the start line, and then there's different waypoints, right?
Sorry,
and the director... Right. And
this is so rude of me, but the Daytona practice started 7 minutes ago.
Yes.
This is the livery of that GT3.
Oh, that's good. Can you send that? Can you send that to me? Can you send that to me so I can put a picture up here for the people?
Sorry, back to Dakar. Also,
back to Dakar.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Liveries. Good things. So the Dakar is just a nutty race. I think it's the craziest race in the world. And it's also, the W2RC is the only championship run where there's not only different classes, but different types of vehicles. So like we talked about earlier with the 24 Hours of Dubai and Le Mans and Daytona and that sort of thing. It's like, oh, well, you have, prototype cars and GT cars and touring cars and whatever. This is cars, bikes, trucks, quads, buggies.
Yeah.
And there's a classic division. There's dudes there in old 911 Safari cars, in old Land Rovers and old Land Cruisers doing the same thing. So I did take notes for every stage, but I'm going to go over the results first, and then afterwards I'll put in, I'll voice over a thing later of, hey, if you don't want to listen to this, whatever, you're done or whatever.
Whatever.
So, whatever. We. Crap on that. So our results for the bike class. Kevin Benavidez won the Dakar this year for Red Bull KTM Factory with a time of 44 hours, 27 minutes, and 20 seconds. Toby Price came second. He's the guy I was rooting for. Toby Price came second also for Red Bull KTM Factory, and he was just 43 seconds behind Kevin Benavidez.
After that much, too.
After that much time, going into stage 14, which was the final stage, they were separated by 13 seconds. Which, if you,
to me, really compares to this is not even a motorized race, but the Tour de France.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can imagine 5,000 miles where you don't have a road, there's not a trail, there's no signs, there's no nothing. You're given a map that's like, go about this far and then take a left, and then go about this far and
drive to that.
Right. So where you're given very loose directions that aren't super direct, you take 5,000 miles, right? There's punctures, you fall over, you get turned around, and you're separated by 13 seconds.
You trip, you stub your toe.
It happens. So they were separated by 13 seconds going into that. Toby Price came second, 43 seconds behind Kevin Benavidez. And Skylar Howes, who I will put up a picture of here, because he has an ungodly good mustache. Racing for Husqvarna Factory. Dude, I don't even care anymore. Whatever. It's just, I'm just going to let it do its thing. No one wants to look at me anyway. So Skylar Howes came third for the USA. We had an American on the podium for Husqvarna Factory. He was 5 minutes and 4 seconds behind Kevin.
Too.
What? Yeah. What I was really upset about was Mason Klein, which I will talk about during the stages, but I'll bring it up if you don't want to listen to me rant for 20 minutes. Mason Klein, who was a rookie for this year, he was in one of the lower class of the bikes last year. A rookie for this year, He's an American. He's 19 years old, and he was third in the standings all the way through till stage 11 or 12 when he had an accident. Tried to keep going and just couldn't make it. So hopefully Mason Klein will be back next year. For the car results, this is the one that people really care about. Yeah. If you're not into the bikes, you really follow the cars. It's the class to watch. It's the one that has the most hype behind it. Even though the Dakar did start as mainly bikes, and there were also some dudes that did it in cars. But same winner as last year. Nasser Al-Attiyah and his co-driver Matthew Baumel finished first in their Toyota Gazoo Racing Hilux with a time of 45 hours, 3 minutes, and 15 seconds. Now, the reason why I find the cars less impressive to the bikes is the bikes leave first every morning. So the bikes go first, and that's a safety thing so that they don't end up in the same traffic as the cars. So the bikes go first. But what that means is that the cars have the bikes' tracks to follow in the sand and in the dirt. So the cars can see where they're going pretty much. So that means that actually the way to win the Dakar is not to finish first every day. You want to finish second or third every day so that you can follow.
Yeah.
Right. So Toby Price, who came second, he won the Dakar in 2018, I think. The only stage that he won when he won the Dakar was the last one. Was basically he just stayed just fast enough to stay in the running,
right?
But to where he could follow someone else's track, so he didn't get lost navigating. And yeah, so we thought he was going to do it again because it was basically identical to last year. But Kevin Benavidez just eked it out this year. But back to the cars. P2. This is what I was upset about. This is what I was hoping for this year. P2 won Sebastian Loeb and his co-driver, whose name I'm going to butcher, Fabian Lerquin, probably ruined that. And they raced for a company called Bahrain Raid Extreme. Now, they were racing in one of those Pro Drive Hunters, which I'll put a picture up here. And they were 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 49 seconds behind P1. It was just one of those things. So Loeb, which I'll get into later, of the 14 stages, Loeb won 7. Like, he was flying towards the end. He was gaining so much time. At one point, he was in 20th position for this thing. Like, he was at the back. So he started to do really well. No issues, no punctures, no nothing, winning stages. But at the beginning is where he lost the time. And that's the thing about endurance races is you don't lose them in the first, you don't win them in the first hour. You lose them in the first hour. So in those first few stages, he had punctures, he had wrecks, that sort of thing. And then in P3 was Lucas Moraes, which I probably butchered as well, and his co-driver Timo Gottschalk, which I probably also butchered. I'm sorry, I don't know you anyway.
Right through it.
Whatever. And they raced for Overdrive Racing, and they were 1 hour and 38 minutes and 31 seconds behind Nasser Al-Attiyah. Yeah, the thing about Dakar, which is also the thing about Formula E, you can't watch it. Like, they just actually don't stream it anywhere. Like, you just can't do that. You can only follow the times.
44 hours?
Well, you can't. Well, and the other thing is it's like, unlike a rally stage, where rally stage is it's on a road. You know where the cars are going to be. This is just racing through the desert, and it's like...
The only way you could film this is to have a helicopter where you just look for a cloud of dust, and you're like, aha!
that must be one of our guys. So, yeah, it's a pretty lawless race as far as things are considered, even though you can't actually get penalized for speeding.
Right.
But yeah, like, there's no way to film it or anything like that. So pretty much the only way to watch the race is watch the live timing and go, hey, Sebastian didn't finish today. And then
he also could not have just maybe gotten lost. I don't know.
Yeah. And then go watch the highlight reels on YouTube's after that. The truck results, I'll put up a screenshot here because I'm not going to try to pronounce 9 names that aren't American. But the truck class took him 54 hours to finish. And then drivers 2 and 3, or trucks 2 and 3 finished 1 hour and 13, and then 2 hours and 40 minutes behind them. I find the truck class really interesting because it's not like a pickup truck. They're not in Raptors. They're in like semi trucks. Like they're full giant trucks.
Like, what's that series in Germany that takes like the Mercedes lorry trucks, and they're in like the 88 liveries. Yeah,
that's some of the most interesting racing ever.
800 horsepower.
Right. I have no desire to watch the full series, but man, it's a good way to waste 20 minutes on YouTube. The trucks are super cool to watch, but I don't follow anyone in the truck series. But the cool thing is that it is 3 people per vehicle. You have a driver, a co-driver, and a mechanic on board. So trucks, super cool, interesting things. Yes. Yay, I'll put a little voiceover thing to where you can jump to the end. Because now I'm going to go through the stages real quick, super quick. Stage 1, cars. Carlos Sainz and Lucas Cruz won the cars, and Ricky Brayback won the bikes for Monster Energy Honda. Carlos Sainz was the other person I was rooting for in the cars because he was in that
team that came out of it where he's like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think Carlos Sainz Jr. was standing there as a spectator, and he's just like
he's just scratching his. But the other funny part was, if you look at that picture, I'll try to find it and put it up here. He's wearing like white pants and a yellow jacket or something, and I'm like, wow, one of you is clearly an old school rally driver, and one of you is clearly a modern Formula One driver. Very different people. Carlos Sainz actually got penalized for Carlos Sainz Jr. closing his door.
Damn kid.
Because Carlos Sainz Jr. is not a member of his team. Anyway.
Nice.
So Ricky Brayback won stage 1 for the bikes. As far as the trucks, Martin Masick, František Tomasic, and David Sfonda won the trucks. As far as some notes from stage 1, Sam Sunderland, defending bike champion, crashed at kilometer 52 after leading for 37 kilometers and was flown to hospital. That was his rally over. Daniel Sanders crossed the line first for the bikes, but was penalized at 3 minutes for speeding. So, as far as how the Dakar works.
You're out in the desert. There's no roads, no guardrails, nothing. You're speeding.
Well, you can be penalized for speeding because they do actually have a speed limit for the bikes. Because people, I think it's like 160 or 180 kilometers an hour, which is still stupid fast for being on dirt. But apparently they used to have dudes doing like 220 kilometers an hour and then would just huck it over a dune and then die. So,
I don't know what these kilometers are.
Sorry. So they used to do like 160 over a dune.
Good.
And then, go fly with the Eagles. But they don't want people flying with the Eagles anymore. They want people to finish.
They would send it over a dune, and then they would land their bike at the pearly gates. And then,
right.
What the hell are you doing here?
So there's a speed limiter on that. And then for all vehicles, if you're going through a pedestrian area, a town, whatever, there is a speed limiter there as well. So Daniel Sanders penalized 3 minutes for speeding. Mason Klein from the USA would finish day 1 in 3rd position. And Carlos Sainz had a puncture on the first stage, finished first anyway. Stage 2. As far as the cars, Nasir Al-Attiyah, this is where he started his reign of winning. And his co-driver for Toyota Gazoo Racing would finish P1 for stage 2. For the bikes, Mason Klein for BAS World KTM Racing Team finished P1, his first stage victory as a Rally GP rider. For the trucks, Alice Laprie, Peter Pecora, and Yaroslav Valter Jr. Finished P1 for the trucks. As far as the notes, Ricky Brayback would lose 7 minutes due to leading the stage, like I was talking about earlier.
Nice.
You don't have tracks to follow, anything like that. Mason Klein led the final 4 waypoints, which is pretty impressive for a rookie GP rider, and a tough day for Sebastian Loeb, who lost an hour and 26 minutes due to punctures. So hour and 26 minutes due to punctures, and he finished an hour and 46 minutes behind at the end. So stage 3 for the cars, Guerlain Chicheret and his co-driver for GCK Motorsport finished first. For the bikes, Daniel Sanders, who we talked about earlier from stage 1, finished first for Red Bull Gas Factory Racing. I know He loves that. For the trucks, for stage 3, there was some sort of discrepancy. Apparently, a bunch of the trucks missed waypoints, so they had to calculate times. So we don't actually have, I don't have results from stage 3. I didn't go back because I was doing these notes in real time. Notes: Ricky Brayback had a crash and was flown to hospital. He's one of the bike riders. And then flash flooding forced the stage to stop at a refueling point. I'll put a picture of that up here. That was pretty nuts. You'd think desert racing, it's super dry. They'll never see an ounce of water for 15 days. There was flash flooding, and cars were getting stuck. Cars were getting washed away. It was pretty nuts. So, stage 4. For the cars, Sebastian Loeb won the stage, and his co-driver Fabian Lerquin for Bahrain Raid Extreme came out on top. For the bikes, Joan Barreda Bort finished first for Monster Energy JB team. For the trucks, Martin Masick, Frantisek Tomasic, and David Sfonda finished first once again after winning stage 1 for MM Technology. Some notes from the stage. Mason Klein had a fuel delivery problem, costing him 10 minutes. Apparently there was water in his fuel. And Loeb had no power steering for the last 13 kilometers, which I can imagine had to be miserable when driving an off-road truck with tons of suspension travel, off-road with giant tires. Man is an absolute legend.
Man loves pain.
Man, I mean, God, dude, I don't, whatever. Man's insane. For stage 5, cars, Nasser Al-Attiyah won another stage with his co-driver for Toyota Gazoo Racing. For the bikes, Adrian Van Beveren, won stage 5 for Monster Energy Honda. For the trucks, Alice Laprie, Peter Pecora, and Yaroslav Valter Jr. once again won a second stage for Insta Forex Laprie Praga. Some notes from the stage. Joan Barreda Bort.
There it is.
Have some American names, people. That's all we ask.
Boy.
Where are my Bill Smiths and my Billy Bobs? All right, I need this to be much more simple. Exactly. Joan Barreda Bort had a severe crash 30 kilometers from the end. He went over the front of the bike and ended up hitting his head. And thankfully, several other riders stopped to help him. That's the cool thing about Dakar is you'll see from the footage, riders and drivers will just stop their race to help out other riders and drivers.
Well, and F1 used to be that way.
F1 used to be that way until it became a TV show. But it's just super cool that everyone's, finishing is such a big deal. It's super nice that everyone is, helping each other out. Another note, Toby Price, 2-time Dakar winner, is one to watch as he has been most consistent thus far, finishing in places 1, which was the prologue, 3, 5, 6, 4, and 3. So Mr. Consistent, like I talked about earlier, likes to finish just behind the lead so that he has some trails to follow, making his job a bit easier. Leia Sanz would crash her Astra Team T1 car, rolling the car and damaging it beyond repair. Driver and co-driver.
Come on.
Driver and co-driver are unharmed.
I probably should have waited.
Sebastian,
make a joke. Holy crap!
Sebastian Loeb rolled his pro-drive Hunter at kilometer marker 355. That's like 260 miles for you Americans. He lost. I'd like it noted. He lost 20 minutes. He rolled his car and he only lost 20 minutes. So well done. Stage 6. The stage was cut 100 kilometers short due to more rain. It's about 60 miles for you Americans. For the cars, Nasser Al-Attiyah won another stage for Toyota Gazoo Racing. Normal names, people. For the bikes, Luciano Benavides for Husqvarna Factory Racing would take his first stage win of the 2023 Dakar. The trucks, Mitchell van der Brink and Jarno van de Pol and Moses Torrelardona, totally butchered every single one of those, would take their first stage victory of the year for Ural Team.
I'm glad I stuck around. I'm loving this.
For Ural Team de Rui Iveco. Some notes.
Here's like next Dakar.
Next. What?
Correct. I'm giving them Jim Bob.
No names. We're going first names only next year. First names only. Manufacturers only, actually. Just Toyota won this one, Honda won this one.
Yeah.
For the notes, Stefan Petter-Hansel and co-driver
Acura, and it's
yeah. So for some notes from Stage 6, Stefan Petter-Hansel and co-driver had a crash in their Audi RSQ e-tron. They were both flown to hospital. Petter-Hansel still holds the records for the most Dakar overall victories with 14 Dakar wins. And this will be the first year he hasn't won a stage. So they did retire from the race. How the Dakar works, if you have to leave your car, if the car has to be towed to the next set of pits, you are disqualified from the race. Carlos Sainz Sr., was following Stefan Petter-Hansel and suffered a similar crash. Their Audi was severely damaged, but able to finish the stage. Stage 7, stage was canceled for the bikes and quads due to torrential downpour. So we only had cars and trucks on this one. So for the cars, Yazid Al-Raji and his co-driver for Overdrive Racing came P1. And for the trucks, I'm going to butcher these as well. Jonas van Kasteren and Derek Rodewald and Marcel Snyders of Boss Machinery Team De Rode Iveco finished P1 for the trucks. Matthias Ekstrom, who is also driving an Audi RSQ e-tron, suffered damage after hitting a stone, breaking a rear left wishbone, if I remember correctly. Stage 8 for the cars, Sebastian Loeb and his co-driver won. For the bikes, Ross Branch of Hero Motorsports Team won, and the trucks, I'm not even going to try those. For Stage 9, Sebastian Loeb won Stage 9 as well. Luciano Benavidez won for the bikes. Some notes, Joan Barreda Bort crashed out at 16 kilometers into the stage. He was flown to hospital. That is his rally over. Carlos Sainz suffered a serious crash. Both driver and co-driver were okay. Sainz was being flown back to camp, but 18 minutes later, he told the helicopter to turn around and go back to his car, where he would then go and attempt to finish the rally.
You know what's funny? Because you notice as we get down, it's almost like you're getting more and more excited because all of them go into capitals. Like all of them, like caps lock was turned on, and then just typed the rest of these notes.
Well, I actually figured out that at the bottom of the YouTube highlights, they listed all of this, so that I just copied and pasted all of it. Heads up, totally cheated on that. Stage 10, Sebastian Loeb won another stage. That was his third stage in a row, fourth stage of the Dakar for Bahrain Raid Extreme. For the bikes, Ross Branch for Hero Motorsports Team Rally would take his second victory of the weekend.
One for the trucks.
For the trucks, no idea. Some notes. Carlos Sainz did end up retiring from the Dakar. His Audi was deemed beyond repair at the start of Stage 10.
Not built full tough, yeah.
Something like that. Stage 11, once again, Sebastian Loeb won Stage 10. I really had my hopes up. Like, Stage 10, I was excited. I thought he could do it. I thought he could come back. I was like, any second now, Nasir Al-Attiyah is just going to not finish the stage, and all will be well, and our little French boy will soar to victory, and it did not happen. For the bikes, Luciano Benavidez won yet another stage.
We had Martin Vandenbrink, Eric Kaufman, and Rish Mu.
Yes, right, dude. The names are ridiculous.
From Rural Team de Rui Iveco.
Yes, dude. The names are ridiculous. This is why I don't follow the truck class. It's not because I don't like it. It's because I can't understand it.
Oh man, how many Nordic or Baltic names can you fit in a sentence?
All of them, dude. Freaking all of them. For Stage 12, Sebastian Loeb won another stage for Bahrain Raid Extreme. For the bikes, Jose Florimo won for Monster Energy. Honda for the trucks. Nick, you can do that one if you want.
Yeah. Jonas van Kasteren, Derek Rodewald, and Marcel Snyders from Boss Machinery Team de Rui Iveco.
There we go. This is why we have Nick here, to say the things that I can.
Resident American European speaker.
Well, you are like 90 years old, so you've probably seen a few. I haven't called you old this episode. It needed to happen.
And yeah, we.
Stage 13, second to last stage, Sebastian Loeb and Fabian Larquin won another stage for Bahrain Raid Extreme, and Kevin Benavidez won yet another stage for Red Bull KTM Factory.
František Tomasek and David Svanda from MM Technologies rounded it out for the trucks.
For stage 14, we had Gerlain Schicheritz and his co-driver for GCK Motorsport. That was their first stage win of the year, and their first stage win ever, if I remember correctly. And we had Niels Therick for RS Concepts on the bikes and for the trucks. Please.
Not call that. We had Vaidotas, Paskevicius, Slavomir Volkov, and Tomas Guzaukas from Fesh team.
Dude, it was all I could do, dude. I could not do the truck names. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry if you ever watch this. I'm sorry for butchering all of your names. Well, Nick, we made it through. We did it.
It's almost as grueling as the Dakar itself.
Yay! Honestly, dude, I can't imagine the Dakar being any harder than reading out the Dakar.
Commentator, he's like,
exactly.
We have Tom Check.
Some dude won. Go that guy. Yeah. So, which, by the way, the commentator for the highlights on the Dakar are outstanding. He's hilarious. The amount of dad jokes per video. I mean, you need more than 2 hands to count the amount of dad jokes.
It's like, oh no, it looks like so-and-so was doomed.
Yeah, worse, dude. Worse. It's so much worse. It's so funny. That was honestly the highlight of the Dakar, was watching the highlight
reel. Yeah.
Right. Well, Nick, I think that about does it.
Yeah, well,
for this week.
I'm sorry
yes.
to interrupt your outro. I apologize.
Oh my
god!
god!
I got to add is if you notice me glancing at my phone periodically, I was just communicating with Haas of Cards, and we are getting our Daytona schedule in place. And if you don't know who he has a few million likes on TikTok, and he's kind of the resident American Haas fan. So
he is
making sure to look forward to the Clutch Dump Instagram and the Twitter for everything Daytona. We'll be doing a Daytona episode on Monday, and I'm going to build the hype for that this weekend.
And I'm only going to talk about Rally on Monday.
So make sure to come by and hang out for that. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be doing videos of the journey of the sites, arriving, behind the scenes stuff. I'll probably do a live stream of the global unveiling of the Z06 GT3R.
Sure,
just
probably a thing.
If
probably a thing.
You want a front row seat to it.
Sure.
So, anyways, yeah, just make sure, guys. Like, damn it, if we don't blow up over Daytona weekend, I don't know how much money I have to spend. Driving my ass halfway across the country. But, yeah, make sure to stay tuned for that. I'm not going to be tweeting, like, oh, my God, so-and-so just crashed. Like,
right.
For every
We're not going to do minute-by-minute updates, but the big stuff.
I am privy to and can see when I'm sober, I will be posting. So make sure.
Eventually, the tweets will just get worse and then disappear.
Yeah, it'll start with like max character limit, and then they will just progressively get shorter. Like it'll at some point just be hashtag. It'll be like hashtag. It'll be hashtag one of the names from the truck series.
Right. He did hit wall. Much bad.
he wall bad.
Well, make sure you follow us on social media at the Clutch Dump. Look for the little yellow Porsche in the corner for all of your 24-hour Daytona updates. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, make sure you give us a follow. Please make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. Please give us a like. Please give us a review. Please give us a rating. It really helps us out, reach a bigger audience, and we'd love to bring you more content, so we need a bigger audience. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Please share the video. Please turn on the notification bell so you can see every time we post. You've seen YouTube videos, all the things the YouTubers tell you to do. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been episode 30 of The Clutch Dump. We'll see you next time.